Hello, everyone. This is Laura, and welcome back to Become a Fluent English Speaker. Have you ever learned a new English word, repeated it several times, written it in your notebook, and felt completely confident that you would remember it forever, only to forget it the next day? If that sounds familiar, don't worry. You're not alone. In fact, this is one of the most common frustrations among English learners. Many people think they have a bad memory. They believe they're not talented enough to learn a language. Some even start to wonder whether they'll ever become fluent. But what if I told you that the problem is not your memory at all? What if the real problem is the way you've been learning vocabulary? Today, we're going to explore why English words disappear from your mind so quickly and what you can do to remember them for much longer. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how your brain actually learns vocabulary and how to make new words. Stay with you instead of slipping away. Let's begin with a simple truth. Your brain is constantly deciding what information is important and what information is not. Every day, you're exposed to thousands of pieces of information. Names, faces, conversations, advertisements, social media posts, and countless other things compete for your attention. Because of this, your brain cannot keep everything. It has to choose. And one of the ways it makes that choice is by asking a simple question. Will this information be useful again? If your brain believes the answer is no, it begins to forget. This is exactly what happens when many learners memorize long vocabulary lists. They see a word, memorize its meaning, and then never use it again. From the brain's perspective, that word is not important. It becomes just another piece of temporary information. A few days later, it's gone. This brings us to the first mistake many learners make. They try to learn words in isolation. Imagine you learn the word determined. You write it down and memorize that. It means someone who doesn't give up. Easily? That's helpful, but it's not enough. Your brain remembers information much better when it is connected to a situation, an emotion, or a story, instead of simply memorizing the definition. Imagine saying, I was determined to improve my English. Even when it felt difficult, now the word has meaning. It becomes part of a real experience. Another mistake is learning too many words at once. Some learners challenge themselves to memorize 50 or even 100 new words in a single day. It feels productive. It feels impressive. But most of those words never become part of their active vocabulary. Learning a language is not a race. It's a process of building connections in your brain. A smaller number of words used repeatedly is far more valuable than a huge list that you forget a week later. Let's talk about repetition. Many people know repetition is important, but they use it incorrectly. They read a word 10 times in a row and assume they've learned it. The problem is that recognition is not the same as memory. When you see a word repeatedly, it feels familiar. But familiarity can be misleading. Real learning happens when you force yourself to remember the word without looking at it. This is called active recall. Instead of reading the word again and again, close your notebook and try to use the word in a sentence. Challenge your brain to retrieve it. That small effort strengthens memory much more effectively than passive review. Another powerful tool for remembering vocabulary is speaking. Many learners spend hours reading and studying, but very little time actually saying words out loud. Speaking creates a stronger connection between your brain, your mouth, and your memory. When you learn a new word, try using it in 3 different sentences within the same day. The more ways you use the word, the more deeply it becomes part of your language system. Here's something fascinating. Emotion also plays a huge role in memory. Think about events in your life that you remember clearly. Chances are, they made you feel something: excitement, fear, happiness, surprise. Emotion tells the brain that something matters. That's why words learned through interesting stories, personal experiences, or meaningful conversations are often easier to remember than words learned from a list. Another reason learners forget vocabulary is because they focus too much on individual words and not enough on phrases. Native speakers rarely think word by word. they use language chunks. For example, instead of learning the word decision by itself, learn phrases like make a decision, important, decision, or difficult. Decision, your brain finds it. Easier to remember, connected. Language, because that's how language naturally exists in real conversations. Let's discuss consistency. Many learners study vocabulary intensely for one day and then ignore it for the rest of the week. Unfortunately, memory doesn't work that way. Small daily exposure is much more effective than occasional marathon study sessions. Even 10 minutes of vocabulary review each day can produce better results than several hours once a week. Consistency sends a message to your brain that this information is important and worth keeping. Here's another important idea. Stop getting frustrated when you forget words. Forgetting is actually part of learning. Every time you forget a word and then remember it again, you're strengthening the memory. Think of it like exercising a muscle. The effort required to recall information helps build stronger neural connections. So forgetting doesn't mean you're failing. It means your brain is learning. The most successful English learners understand this. They don't panic when they forget vocabulary. They simply review it, use it again, and keep moving forward. Over time, the words become easier and easier to remember. Eventually, they become automatic. You don't have to think about them anymore. They simply appear when you need them. That's when vocabulary truly becomes part of your fluency. So if you've been struggling to remember English words, stop blaming your memory. Start changing your approach. Learn words through context. Use active recall. Speak new vocabulary out loud. Connect words to emotions and experiences. Focus on phrases instead of isolated words. And most importantly, stay consistent. Remember, fluency is not built by learning thousands of words quickly. It's built by learning words deeply and using them regularly. Now, before we finish today's English listening podcast, I want you to answer a question in the comments. What English word have you learned recently that you don't want to forget? Write it below and use it in a sentence. And if you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe to become a fluent English speaker for more English listening practice, vocabulary lessons, fluency training, and confidence-building content. This is Laura, and remember, every word you learn is a step closer to fluency. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep growing. I'll see you in the next podcast. Keep growing.